Welcome back to the third part of this Yule Spectacular of 2015 up the velocity of now with me, your host Thomas Sheridan, on the Thomas Sheridan Arts YouTube channel, and my official website is thomassheridanarts.com, and you can get to anything from that point. Now, I want to talk about this segment about the dream experiment we ran in 2015 with often spectacular and, for me personally, sometimes terrifying results. Anyone who's been following the thing knows that I was asking people to write down their dreams, send them to me, and then I was putting them into a database that would look for keywords to see if they showed up. Two spectacular and unfortunate hits happened. The first was the Tiananmen disaster in China. Many people were saying China, something wrong, something will happen in China. And then immediately before the Paris attacks, some people were sending messages in numbers. They were actually showing up as hits at the top of this database search that something was going to happen, a false flag in a cultural center. And of course, we had the horrific attack by ISIS on the Bataclan Cultural Center, as it's called, in Paris, as well as other places. Paris being the ultimate cultural center. And that was a hit too. We've now proved conclusively that these things are not flukes, that at some level, when we dream, we exit this reality and enter into another reality that not only has a different space-time continuum than this reality we inhabit. The clock speed is quite different, but it's almost like when we're in that reality, we dream of this reality in a different clock speed. And perhaps that's what makes people see things happening in the future. I also spoke about my own dream experiences and how very strange and powerful they've become. That I've actually entered into an engagement with my dreaming that's beyond a passive observer. I can now go places in the dreams. I don't mean like astral traveling. I mean I've actually found a location in what we would call the somnunatic world where I have a different version of myself. Now it could be a dream, it could be fantasy, it could be allegory, but it's now becoming increasingly real to me because I can actually it's repetitive. I'm going back to the same place. Now I told you before I had these repetitive dreams of a house at the end of a corner of a street where I was always fearful of the third floor. Actually, I was fearful of the whole house, but it progressed to the third floor. And the street that I live on, I told you that I seem to appear to live above a cafe in some kind of French-speaking city, though it's not Paris and it's not even in France. If anything, it seems like a North American, a Montreal, Quebec type experience. But it's not there either. There's something slightly askew about it. It's almost like a more steampunk version of this reality. Buildings are a bit more ornate, as if something happened and at one point in history reality fractured. We got stuck with brutalistic architecture in this reality, and in this other reality I can enter in my dreams. It's still ornate. It still has that 19th century Art Nouveau feel about it. Looks like the movie what's that, the 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Jules Verne, that kind of feel to it. Very steampunk. And I'm not that big into steampunk either, so it's not my impressions being passed upon it. But in a dream I had last week, I found myself back in this place. And during the dream, I told you in the last dream there was a kind of a boulevard and an avenue that went downtown that had buses running on it either side, like a two-lane street. And so we walked down that with someone who's a friend in this reality, I guess. And we walked down to the waterfront, and it was a river running through the city, and along the banks of the river, very beautiful ornate buildings, again in that Art Nouveau, almost Baroque style, all over the place, and very beautiful, very nice, very, very civilized. Am I projecting my own idealistic version of a city in there? I don't know, but the most remarkable thing for me is that I can actually go there. So when I go to sleep at night, I can think about going to this place and I end up going to it. For the first time in my life, I'm actually able to, engage with the dreams, not passively, but I'm actually actively involved in the dreams. I know where I'm going, almost if I'm writing the script before I fall asleep. It could be predictive programming, I don't know, but I'm finding it very enriching. Now, along with that, I'm still getting my regular dreams, if we want to call them that, the ones filled with allegory. I never get nightmares anymore, funny enough, since I did this. The ones full of allegory and metaphor that we normally have dreams of. Now, I had one a few nights ago that did leave me somewhat worried and upset, and I want to talk about this with the rest of you because I haven't been. And I want you also, if you're sending me dream data, please continue to send it. It's still being registered. I know some of you, quite a few, you still are. It hasn't ended. It's just that I got very upset after the Bataclan thing, and I got very upset, very depressed for a couple of days. A part of me wondering or feeling guilty about it on some level. I can't explain it. It's just it made me feel awful, and I'm better now. I'm okay again with it now. But this dream I had a couple of nights ago, I want to talk about it. Myself and a bunch of people who were sort of what people would call awake. Say my tuned in, turned on friends, switched on friends, and people I know, even ones I don't know in real life, ones I know on the internet. We were all standing on a waterfront above the ocean, on top of a cliff. Look on a very nice, attractive shoreline. A gang of us, we were having a nice time. And we were looking out to sea, and there was a beautiful island across the sea, and we were told that we were going to go visit this island. We were going to go for a day trip to this island. And we all said, that sounds fantastic, let's get on the ferry boat. So we went inside this ferry terminal. It was a very nice, modern ferry terminal, and we started to queue up at the front. And one of I was second in the queue, and the person ahead of me was a friend of mine I have here in Sligo who's a full-on conspiracy theorist. I mean, you know me, I'm quite conservative about this stuff. I'm still learning. I generally have the brakes on constantly, and I very rarely let the brakes off on this stuff. I'm very cautious. But I have friends who are full on, and that's okay. They're nice people. I don't care. He doesn't do the flat earth thing, of course, but he does he's big time into the 9/11 conspiracy, big time into the Judy Wood stuff. And we were about to get on the ferry, and we were looking through behind the reception desk, the ticket desk, or the boarding desk, where the woman collected our fares. And I was looking across the sea, and I noticed that the cliff had very, very steep sides. Very steep sides, and only one way. It was only about a half a mile off the coast. One jetty on it with a steps up towards it, and then they were kind of on the top. And we had entered as tourists and nothing else. And the woman who was at the front of the ticket desk, and I was second in the queue, my friend said, "I'd like a ticket to the island, please." And she says, "Sure, but first, what do you think of this book?" And she took out a book that said something like 9/11 conspiracy and all conspiracies, the ultimate truth. And my friend, who's the hardcore conspiracy theorist, was about to open his mouth, and I put my hand over his mouth and held it closed and said, "Oh, he knows nothing about any of that stuff." And then I turned around to everybody on the queue and I said, "It's a trap. They're leading us to an island prison for thinking differently." And we all ran out of the ferry terminal and escaped. Now, let's talk about what this may mean. We know for the longest time that they've been attempting to assassinate, I mean verbally, visually, intellectually, in terms of respectability, people's reputations who have maverick or out there opinions, using their agents within the alternative scene. In my case, a comet debt cult based in the south of France, who took up all my old comedy sketches and stand-up sketches, completely requoted them and misquoted them out of context to make it seem like I was everything from a womanizer to a racist. And even though I was right, those jokes at the time was to make fun of an Irish racist group called the Irish Nationalist Network. These vermin and scum under the working for George Soros, we now have proof of this, and this will be brought about very shortly by some other people. I'm not involved in it, but we do have real hardcore proof that, like all cults, this one in particular is directly answering to the intelligence services with the mandate of assassinating and discrediting all alternative information from the inside, as well as hoovering up people's names, addresses, and numbers for a possible, well, what was going to happen on the island of Dream. Now, are they planning something like this? Now, it's been going on for a long time now. The flat earth stuff is definitely that. The flat earth has definitely been fed in order to make all maverick intellectual opinions look bonkers. Now, and then also to take things where there is a sort of a momentum and destroy it. A good example of that would be the chemtrails thing. Now, I don't know anything about chemtrails. I'm not really interested in it, but I know lots of intelligent people who are, and that's their business and they're into it. However, I can definitely, from someone who's not into it or has no emotional investment in it, I can take my foot off the brakes and see when that's actually been made look more foolish. One would be those photographs of those tanks, those water ballast tanks on the aircraft that are used for testing aircraft responses being put out there as proof of chemicals in big containers. That one still gets knocked about now and again. Another one is you'd have pictures of aircraft controls and there'd be a switch saying chemtrails to be flicked on, obviously a fake and all this kind of thing. And impulsive people will jump on this, desperate to get some kind of. See, they know that people who have been desperately trying to figure this stuff out, some of them will desperately jump on anything they will call proof. Now that's an assassination of something that may be true. Just about everything to do with 9/11, as I said, is a complete fabrication in terms of the conspiracy to make, if there's any truth to that being a conspiracy, to make it look crazy. All of it. The flat earth is the ultimate psyop. I mean, this is the psyop of the century. Now, there's various reasons why this took off. It's proof that most people many people, I would say about now 25% of the alternative movement now believes the flat earth thing is real. Again, this is something that's has been deliberately done on purpose and cultivated for that reason, to make us all look, anyone with an alternative opinion, look crazy. It's a very old tactic. It's often been done. Now, one of the things that gets done to me quite a lot by agents is they get on my friends list and they look at who the closest people are to me, particularly women they target on my friends lists, and they send them emails saying Thomas Sheridan said this about you and Thomas said that about you, and there's no proof given. And of course, these people who met me in real life know that's all bullshit, and I wouldn't want anyone in my life who was stupid enough to believe something like that anyway. But this is the kind of tactics that go on, both by mentally ill truthers and also more likely mentally ill truthers who are being goaded into this by intelligence handlers who they don't know are intelligence handlers. They're actually people who would like they would look around the conspiracy threads and they would find the most unstable ones, or the ones they would perceive as the most paranoid and unstable, and they would make friends with them. They would validate them. They would keep them feeling secure, and so on. And then what they would do then is they would quite simply start turning them against other people who are sincere, like me. Even though you don't want to, some of you don't believe it, I am absolutely probably one of the most, if not the most sincere person in the scene. That's why I don't talk about aliens and flat earth and all the other nonsense. I don't do things like that. That's why I keep my foot on the brakes, because I'm trying to protect all of us as much as myself, and that's why I don't jump on every bandwagon in order in order to make money off you. What you see is what you get. I'm a regular fella. My friends range from lads I went to school with who work as mechanics and barmen, all the way to Hollywood movie stars and directors and rock stars. That's my friends list. But I'm still the same person to all of them. And if they can't handle that, they can go fuck themselves. I'm not changing or compromising for anyone. I'm still the same fella I've always been, and I will not change. And I'm not going to pretend to be spiritual or pious, because that's not being spiritual or pious. That's being a fake. And that's the great thing about the likes of J.P. Sears. He's showing all these spiritual fakes up for what they are in the new age scene. All these wankers who like are offended. Now, we may be heading for an almighty trap. I think that's what the image of the cliffs is. That they're going to try and corral us into a trap. I think this flat earth thing has worked very well for them. But someone like me, I think I'm the only one who's actively, of all the people who's a name in alternative media, I'm the only one who was man enough and had the guts to stand up and call this bullshit out. The rest of them are either parasites who jumped on the bandwagon, mentally ill parasites who jumped on the bandwagon too, other parasites who didn't want to alienate a huge section of their audience, and instead of realizing that they did, instead of cutting off their financial stakes in this madness, they sat on the fence and they were saying things like, "Does it really matter? Does it really matter if the earth is flat? Of course it fucking matters. It's a fundamental construct of reality." I'll never patronize you like that. So someone like me is extremely dangerous for that reason. Not someone who makes up stories that the Japanese Illuminati are after him. I'm the real thing, because I'm the most dangerous man on this earth to these bunch, because I'm a normal fella. I don't channel aliens. I don't communicate with beings. I don't fall for the UFO aliens bollocks. And I tell you the truth. I give it to you straight. And I don't pretend to be a guru. I know I'm fucked up just like the rest of you are, and I'm okay with it. I have my good days and I have my bad days. But I will not lead you astray deliberately. And so I think if this dream means anything, they're going to try and corral us into a trap that will be the final end of the alternative movement. The Russell Brand one didn't work. Who stood up against that? Me. The flat earth one didn't work because 3/4 of you still can see it as bonkers. God bless you. They're going to try something much more severe. They've got it because there's still too many of us have the savvy and the moxie. What it is, I don't know. It could be something as basic as an internet driver's license, where you have to meet a certain criteria to have like an internet driver's license. Not the worst thing in the world, I might add, because that would be a great way of identifying shills for us if we're smart enough. On the other hand, it'll directly stop alternative opinions. Now, another aspect of my work is I'm not an activist. I shun activism. I have a friend who's a former Satanist. I get on quite well. I have a few friends who are former Satanists, but one was quite hardcore into the satanic scene here in Ireland. Came over with the Crusties, and the Crusties, there was these New Age travelers. A lot of them were Satanists. A lot of them were big into the satanic scene. And I know quite a few still. Two of them are still involved. One of them is completely pulled out and become kind of Christian. But one thing I learned from them that I value, one sort of satanic Luciferian construct, is the idea of purity of thought. That if you're pure in your actions and deeds, and you don't ever have to cover your ass, there's a purity there. Now, one of the reasons I'm not an activist is because one of my satanic friends said to me years ago, and this is also something that I think is important, and some of you out there who are thinking of crusaders, especially if you have children and families, need to think about. The system, if it's falling, is doomed to die. Anyone can see that. Anything run by psychopaths is doomed to failure, whether it's a family, a relationship, a a business or a nation or an entire planet. It is doomed to collapse. It is inevitable. It is going to fall asunder. Therefore, your activism in that is a waste of time, because the system itself is inherently self-destructive, pulling itself down. So one of the things my satanic friends used to say to me was, let it die and just take care of yourself and the ones you love and those nearest and dearest close to you. Because to this whole idea of saving the planet is a Christian idea that's built on taking as much of your energy away from you and your creativity, and helping directly the people that you're closest to, and externalizing it to something that where it affects nothing and is doomed anyway. It's doomed anyway. And I totally agree with that. That's why I'm not an activist. That's why I discourage activism, except that activism can be good for meeting like-minded people with the same ideas, and it can assure you, once you don't expect to change the world, it's not going to happen. The world will change itself, the system will snowball into its own destruction, but you should be saving all that energy in the meantime for your solution for when it all falls apart. You know what I'm saying? You need that energy. This is the same reason why, but they also know, you see, this all comes out of Jesuit ideas. This is where the confession of the Catholic Church comes from. The church knows you're full of shit and what you're doing, and knows your plans, and knows that. And this is how it keeps control over the parishioners. Being an activist is another way of saying, look at me, take notice of me. But the greatest activist of all is the one who moves in the shadows. And that's what we should all strive to be. I can't do it because I've got a public name, but lots of you can. And take care of your family, smile, and don't get involved, but just seek your ways to escape, no matter how that is. Find your creative path, because the system will fail without your engagement. It's not if something goes against the laws of nature. Again, this is classic Satanism. If something goes against the laws of nature, it cannot survive. It will fall apart eventually, because the bullshit needed to maintain it will eventually swallow it. So with this dream in mind, which could be just bullshit, it could mean nothing, but with this in mind, how I'm viewing this myself, and I'm telling you how to live your life and what you should do, but how I'm viewing this myself is that they're going to create the final mega trap. Whether this could be the ultimate political candidate to scoop you all up, whether they'll do a spectacular, like actually reveal that one of the conspiracies we thought would never be validated gets validated. But either way, it's a trap to get you on that island, and with its high steep cliffs, and leave you there, high and dry, as they say. High and dry and up shit creek without a paddle. So ignore it. Don't. This is the time for you now, if you're into conspiracy, to become a covert, low key, keep it to yourself, whispering in the woodshed troublemaker. Stay low key, keep it to yourself. If you have your friends you already know who are into this, keep it to yourself. Shouting on the internet is only going to set alarms off. It's only going to use up energy. That's the whole, what they call the truth movement. It's all about you wasting your energy. It was absolute gaslighting from day one. Now, it woke up some people that have very enriched lives ever since, and it's got me to meet some very nice people. But we have to be careful now. I have friends. Look, I've got friends who spent their whole lives devoted to the system, and even they know it's gone too far. We're at the point, as I said, where the The steel fist is now being removed from this velvet glove. They're not even hiding it anymore. You don't have to look at the UK. The attack using the welfare system on the most marginalised people. This is to get people as angry as possible. In Ireland, they're flaunting the banks again, and they're brown nosing the industrialists and all this stuff. The people who led the country to a crash in 2008. They want people angry. They want you angry. And here's my main one: be very, very cautious of groups and organizations which are actively involved in high profile protests. In particular, groups that stage demonstrations outside things like people being evicted from their property, groups that stage demonstrations outside military bases, banks, and so on. The Socialist Workers' Party, I can guarantee you right now, are being activated for their future psyop of entrapping and destroying people with genuine insurgency views. Tarquin and Melissa in Cambridge are being given their red flags now and told to start talking about this. This is the new thing Denny is telling us to talk about. I'm telling you. Don't get involved. Stay low key and watch your ass, especially if you have a family and children. It doesn't matter if you look up and you see the sky covered in chemtrails, or you wake up and you see whatever it is, and whatever you're into. If you have a family with children, you look at those kids and you say, that's my priority, not saving the world so we can have this fantasy world promised for years and have never delivered, that kept you in blinkers on. There's going to be no great mass awakening. There's going to be no human race get off your knees. There's going to be no ascension to any other dimension. Your priority is to take care of the ones you love and not to be a hero. Not to be a hero under any circumstances. You're not a hero, you're a fool, you're cannon fodder, you're flotsam for the psychopathic control grid. And if you know in your heart and feel strongly in your heart about these things, keep it to yourself and only share it with people like mine. Don't make a fool of yourself at work or in public or with your family. Keep it to yourself. Maintain it inside and fight from within. It can be done. And the greatest way that you as an activist can serve humanity right now is not to wave a placard that's been handed to you by the Socialist Workers' Party, is not to go to rallies and demos, but is to do the greatest act of insurgency of all. Mind your own business and look after the ones you love. On other matters, I'm really delighted and refreshed to see this darkness of Christmas and the Yule season being embraced again. I look on my Facebook wall and I see almost no Santas in their Coca-Cola red outfit. I see more and more people sharing, even if it's Christmas stuff, the green Santa, which looks just like Odin. They're going more back to a Victorian aspect of Christianity, should I say a Dickensian fictional idea. And this has always been for me the nicest thing about this year. I love the spookiness of Christmas. I love watching films like The Signalman, the adaptation, 1970s adaptation of the BBC of the Charles Dickens short story. Phenomenal. I love A Christmas Carol, the darkness of it. I love Krampus. I love all the entities associated with it. The Cailleach Beara and the Lianan Shee in the Celtic myth, the Tonta in the Scandinavian, the whole idea of Krampus. I just absolutely adore this stuff. I love the short days. I love the idea of the smallest bird being the king of the birds, the wren, the smallest bird on these islands, being the bird you see at Christmas time, along with the robin. But the wren is the littlest bird, the smallest, tiniest little bird, is the king of the birds during this period. Not the eagle, not the albatross, not the hawk, but a little small, tiny, cute little brown bird that lives in the hedgerows. The wren, the king of the birds. All hail the king of the wren. That bird, that amazing little bird, and also the proof of that this connection with nature is the robins everywhere, and how friendly and approachable robins are. How they come into your house, how they will come up to you when you're sitting in the backyard, when you're standing in the backyard or walking in the park. It's the closest we get to feeling that shamanic feeling of being connected to nature at the primal level. The red robin, the male robin redbreast, in particular, he's almost like the bird that he's almost like the totem of the season in terms of it being the point in nature where all of us, all the mammals, all the birds, all the fauna, and we're all in the same position as one. And that's why the wren becomes the king of the birds. We're all fighting or being attempting to deal with the same monsters. And this is why Christmas is much more connected with darkness and demons and ghosts and goblins than Halloween or Samhain. It's much more in a different way because we've defeated them. You see, the portal has opened then on Samhain, and they've been with us ever since, and now the portal is closed and we've survived. And there's something powerful and beautiful about that, something magical and something intense about that. It's just like, and this, you look at I mean, it was doing my heart no end of joy to see people sharing the picture of the green Santa Claus in the green outfit, because what I was seeing was Odin. I was seeing Odin comes down at this time of year. He sends Hugin and Munin down at this time of year, and he comes down to take an eye on us, to keep a look at us, look out for us. He's there. He is our father. He is our father during the darkest nights. He looks out for us. He's not here to punish us for having original sin. He's not here to starve us in the cold. He's here to watch out for us. And the Christmas season, in terms of the Christian idea, has been foisted upon us in a very difficult way, because we're in previous times, when before Christianity, this would have been almost a time of hibernation. But the Christians want us traveling, spreading our infections among each other, getting into danger in the cold, eating up all the food we're supposed to store up for the rest of the year. You know what heathens would have done during this time of year? Shagging. The riding would have been non-stop. There would have been so much riding around now. This would have been the way to keep warm. This would have been the fun, and this would have been assured that the kids 9 months down the road were born at the end of summer. So all the shagging and riding would have been taking place right now. It would have been fantastic. It would have been fantastic. Now, talking of that, I saw a thing about the porn industry. Now, let's talk. The porn industry is an interesting one too. Alan Watt had an interesting talk there about how the porn industry, it is a great cultural destroyer. Well, I disagree with that on some levels. I'll tell you why. Because while the porn industry is monstrous, and I say industry because all these industries are monstrous no matter what they are, at a major level, and there is adequate proof that people who take part in it, particularly women, end up psychologically damaged by the experience, because there is a dangerous energetic transference. The only reason we have a hardcore porn industry is because the Abrahamic religions have denied us access to our full sexuality. I would trust a porn star any day over a priest or a nun, because porn stars don't rape children. It's a chicken and egg scenario. The reason why hardcore porn exists is because sexuality has been made taboo, and likewise the art of eroticism has been forgotten. Instead of becoming these types who reject all kinds of human sexuality expressions in order to fight pornography, they want us going back to a puritanical mindset. There is a middle path of eroticism, the beautiful art of erotica, which has been forgotten, which has been badly forgotten. both by people in their own sexual lives and both by mass culture at the same time. And this is a great shame because this was really very healthy and very beautiful. But it's been lost and stolen from us. And it was stolen by the pornography industry for the simple reason that the Abrahamic religions made sexuality, human sexuality, a taboo. And for the same reason that Julia in the 1984 Orwell novel said, because when people are making love, they haven't got time to be angry. But if you deny people sexuality, like in the Anti-Sex League in that book, they become angry and they become frustrated because they're not getting laid. Or they're not even masturbating. They're not even like indulging their sexuality. That's nothing wrong with that. They reject the clitoris, they reject the orgasm. It's sinful, it's shameful. And that energy is then harvested by either the religions or by the government. So as bad as pornography is, let's be aware that the other side of it, puritanism, is far, far more dangerous because it leads to complete control of people by harvesting their frustrations. So this is what I'm about. Look, I know that there's no perfect outcome. I know life is not supposed to be perfect. I know things are not supposed to be perfect. I know that inherently the flawed nature of humanity is what gives birth to our creativity. So I wouldn't want to live in a Venus project with all these robots where every problem is solved. I embrace chaos. I embrace chaos because in that chaos is the fire of creativity is born. If everything is stable and secure, it's horrible. It's horrible. We need to be like peasants, like European peasants. We need that to be like that. To understand that we have to work to achieve certain things. Life isn't always, our life has difficulties with it, but that difficulty presents beautiful things like culture. Culture comes from these crises. We have to find this in our own lives. Like I'm never going to write a book saying this is Thomas Sheridan's guide to life and how you should live. And fuck you anyone who does things like that. Because my story is not your story is not my story, and this sense of judgment where you may have a weasel maggot in a cult who judges people based on channeling his mother-in-law who sits beside him in the same room in the future. This is him and maggots like him imposing their moral framework upon others, which is fascism. I don't do that. I don't care how you live your life. Now, if we have fundamental disagreements about the flat earth and other things like that, I will argue with them, but I don't think you're a fucking piece of shit. I don't think you should be picked up and put into a fucking gas oven. I don't think anything like that. But I do think that if you're wrong, you're damaging others. If you're badly wrong, you're damaging everything, and I will hold you accountable until you start to think more rationally. But it's not me forcing my ideas on you. I'm trying to help you. And I would never I would never have a mandate where I would tell people how to live their life according to what I do, because guess what? I'm fucked up, and I like the parts of me that are fucked up. I like the parts of me that are not perfect. I like the parts of me that don't function properly, because they present opportunities for solutions. And those opportunities for solutions are the reason why I'm alive, the reason why you're alive. So you see this idea of everyone has to. There's 12 steps of Course in Miracles, 12-step programs. Do this, live a great life. All these gurus, these ridiculous life coaches. Nobody can narrate your story as well as you can. Nobody can write your saga as well as you can, and no one can undertake your monomyth as well as you can. Now you can be inspired by others and certain things they do, but only be inspired by those attributes or specific elements that inspire you. Do not try to emulate the entirety of the other person's beliefs. And this is what these these gurus and these life coaches want you to do. It's a form of religion. It's what cults do. The cult leader expects all the morons in the cult to do exactly what they do. So if she picks up the 50th cigarette for the day, some guy with a PhD who's looking for illogical fallacies in other people picks up his 50th cigarette of the day to show how brainwashed he is, because he's stupid. He is afraid of his own independence. He's terrified of it. Terrified of thinking for himself, and he will go to any extremes to prove or demonstrate his psychological bondage to his filthy queen with the Ouija board. He will go to any extremes. He will murder if he has to. He will rape his own children if the voices in the Ouija board tell him to, because he is worthless. He's absolutely worthless, and he knows he's completely worthless. So don't ever, ever allow someone to do your thinking for you. As soon as they do, run. Inspiration and blind devotion are not the same thing. Now, this brings me to another thing. I've actually come full circle on people I used to listen to, and I used to say to myself, oh, I really like what this person is saying, and then after a few years, oh, it's a load of bollocks, and now I'm kind of back to it again, where I'm liking it again. And two examples of that are Deepak Chopra, who in the very early days I really liked a lot of his stuff. I had a couple of his cassette tapes, and I used to listen to them in New York when I was going to work. The Sacred Words and Healing Sounds, a wonderful cassette tape where he's talking about etymology and how languages and words are similar all over the world. And then there's the other one where another tape where he spoke about the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas, wonderful. And even the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success were pretty good. I had no problem with any of these tapes. And then he went on Oprah and all this shite. And it all got very J.P. Sears and very commercial. But I've noticed, and some of the people have posted his writings again, he's got hardcore again. He's become very kind of hardcore, the way he used to be. He used to talk in the early days about action is everything, and intention is useless and all this stuff. And he's kind of gone back to that. He's become much more hardcore in his political opinions too. And I've come to actually really respect the guy again. Like everything else, there's fluff that he has, which I would not be into. Now, the other one is Terence McKenna. I used to love Terence McKenna when I used to read those articles in Wired magazine. The biggest problem for me with Terence McKenna was when I first heard his speaking voice. I'm Terence McKenna, and I'm very verbose, and I will use all kinds of literal extrapolations to define the most basic concepts. So when I went for a cup of tea, I did not go for a cup of tea. I embarked upon a beverageized saga in order to procure some caffeinated leaves from the Orient. You see, that kind of bothered me. But I've gone back now full circle again. And then we had tossbags like, what was his name, that lunatic there? That drug addict lunatic Jan Irving and his own little cult, calling him a CIA operative based on nothing. And I was even a bit worried about that for a while. But now I've kind of come back and say, yeah, he's okay, he's pretty good, I like him. And this is how my maturity is. This is how I'm growing. I feel I'm always growing as a person. It's like a relationship. You have a relationship with someone and you're riding them and banging them and having a great time for a long time, and then it breaks up. And you go, I fucking can't stand her. She's a bitch and all this. Fucking Rue broke my heart. Oh, he's a pig. He fucking wrecked my heart. And then, like after 10 years or so, you say, she wasn't so bad, or he wasn't so bad. And he was it was just the way life is. And this is how I am with my knowledge and stuff like that. I'm coming back to where I came from in some places. Like there's been people that I have been with me on the journey for a long time. Colin Wilson, he's been with me since I was a little boy, and I'm still following. And David Yallop since I was a teenager, and Alan Moore since I was in my 30s, and I'm still with him and his work. There's always been ones that I've followed with me, and John Keel. I found him in my 20s that I've followed along with me, and I'm still a fan of 14 Times magazine. I still think it's the best magazine in the world. And so I've grown, I've fallen about, and I've come back. And it really tells you what I've been saying about people is there's no absolute truth. I seek truth. I'm a truth seeker. I seek truth. I want the absolute truth. You sound like fucking Ian Paisley. You sound, fucking Ian Paisley. We the good Protestant people of Ulster. I can't do an Ulster accent. I just can't. I cannot do I'm not that good at accents, but I cannot do an Ulster accent. I don't know why. Maybe I don't drink enough Thai food tea and eat jam sponges. Maybe I need to do that more. Or maybe if I paint the front of my house in either green or orange or blue and red, I'll get better at it. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the Copacabana tonight the world's most offensive comedian, Joey Schmuck. You beautiful people, you beautiful people. Oh, look at you, I'm so glad to be here, I miss live comedy is where it's at. Live comedy, oh, look at the ass on that one there, whoa, baby, yeah. Anyway, the last 3 weeks, the last 3 years, I've been doing a radio show on my own network. It's called WPMS. Yes, the format is 3 weeks of the blues and 1 week of ragtime. Oh, thank you, you beautiful people, you beautiful, beautiful people. Joey Schmuck isn't afraid to do political comedy. No, Joey Schmuck. You know, how about those Middle Easterners? They're all a bunch of pit bulls with AIDS. Yeah. Iran. Sure, Iran. I had guacamole for lunch. Thank you. Yeah. Before the gig tonight, Joey Schmuck went to the can to take a piss. And I was in there taking a piss, and this guy beside me, he says to me, "Fuck me, you got a small dick. Like I was supposed to be apologetic. And he says, this Joey Schmuck, he says, "Are you not ashamed of having a small dick?" And I told him, "Now go fuck himself. No, I ain't ashamed of having a small dick." The guy was a motherfucking hypocrite because he just took up his pants and went after he'd taken a shit and left. Thank you. Joey Schmuck may be the world's most offensive comedian, and I may be headlining in the Copa, but the economic realities of this motherfucking recession is affecting Joey Schmuck too. Things are so bad in the Schmuck household that my old lady is having sex with me again in order to save the price of batteries. Yes, thank you people. Oh, that waitress over there in the corner's pretty cute, isn't she? I heard she's Russian. Yeah. I wish she was rushing into my pants. Thank you. Yeah. But no, sincerely, sweetheart, Joey Schmuck means no offense. I mean no offense to you, sweetheart. You foreign women are just like fine wines. You're a fucking lot cheaper when I grow abroad. And although Joey Schmuck, the world's most offensive comedian, the most offensive comedian will joke about anything, Joey Schmuck is not an insensitive motherfucker. No, because Joey Schmuck understands people suffering. For instance, Joey Schmuck was talking to Andy the bartender over there. Drop the motherfucker a tip. He has nothing to pay for extra blowjobs afterwards. But Andy was talking to me last week, and it was a beautiful story. He said, Joey, I went to the doctors and I told them I had been raped by an elephant and I had left my asshole 10 inches wide. And sure enough, the doc got out that measuring tape and measured the width of his asshole, and it was 10 inches wide. And then the doctor said, Andy, how come if an elephant's dick is only 4 inches wide, is your asshole 10 inches wide? And Andy goes, that's because the motherfucker fingered me first. Thank you. Joey Schmuck, remember me, the world's most offensive comedian, Joey Schmuck. But Joey Schmuck too has domestic problems. Yes, domestic problems. My beautiful son Joshua, my wife walked into his bedroom and underneath the mattress of his bed found an S&M, yes, a sadomasochistic sex magazine underneath the bed. So we didn't want to embarrass the kid because Joey Schmuck is a liberal father. And Joey Schmuck was sitting there and my wife comes down to me and she goes, Joshua has a collection of S&M porno mags under his mattress. How do we punish him? And I said, for Christ's sake, whatever you do, don't spank the fucker. Thank you, Joey Schmuck. But Joey Schmuck is having hard times as a comedian. Joey Schmuck has to supplement his living by being a motherfucking librarian. Yes, Joey Schmuck is a librarian. And the other day, a woman come into the library and she says to me, Mr. Schmuck, do you have a book on innuendos? So I took her up the aisle and let her have it. Thank you, Joey Schmuck. Remember me, Joey Schmuck.